I mean, that's a lot too. You don't want to see it. We buy things maybe once or twice a week. Every year for the flu, and
Well,
nobody.
that used to be.
Well, now our freezers are.
I don't understand it.
It's because the
Yeah.
intensity
It's
of
the
the
fresh veggies.
I'd like to call to order the Township of North Huntington Board of Commissioners special meeting for Thursday, April 9th, 2020, 7 p.m. Roll call, Manager Silka.
Commissioner Stump,
Here.
Commissioner Atwood,
Here.
Commissioner Blasco, Commissioner Zona,
Here.
Commissioner Bevan,
Here.
Commissioner Gass,
Here.
Commissioner Higas.
Here, could everyone please stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If any residents would like to speak tonight, they can sign the book at the podium. Thank you. We have one resident tonight, Rich Gray. If you could just state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. Rich Gray, 12229 Adams Drive, North Huntington. I just had a question. I see on the agenda is the operations plan for COVID-19. My question before that, I saw that was, I know the board had talked about, or Jeff had talked about, maybe rescheduling some people, adjusting schedules in the Parks Department, Public Works, maybe police, I don't know. I just wondered if any of that happened, if there has been a change in delivery of service to people. And I was wondering if we're paying anyone to stay home, or if anybody has been laid off or not working at this point. That's all I wondered. Thank you.
Thanks. Let the record reflect that's the end for citizen input. Response to citizens input.
Sure. Whenever the governor issued his mega order a couple weeks ago, we did go to a platoon system where we basically cut our staff in half, and we are working 3 business days on, and then 3 business days off site for directors, administrative staff, clerical. Everybody is working from home where they can. The public works is on standby. They are being paid for the half that's not there, with a 30-minute response time if they are needed to come in. And so we've been working that since the end of March, and we've been kind of rushing that. That's the plan that's going to be talked about today. So we haven't laid anybody off, other than we haven't. Well, the school guards obviously are on laid off, and we haven't hired any summer help. So we're working on that 50%. So in case we do have an infection, it only affects 50% of our staff. We can quarantine our staff, still maintain full-time operations. Our service level is operational but reduced. The police and dispatch are working normal as they work rotating schedules, 12 hours on, 12 hours off, and the dispatchers rotate, so they have social distancing, inherently into their system. So we're not doing any physical inspections. We're not doing anything that we have to go outside, other than engineering does go out to investigate complaints that could be life-threatening or property damaging, threatening, and that's how we're doing it.
Yeah, go ahead.
One question, just for a clarification, when you say Public Works has a 30-minute response time, does that mean they're on standby basically at home?
Yes,
Or-
yeah.
So nobody is reporting unless they're needed for service?
50% are reporting.
50%,
So we have
okay.
we have a light crew on for Public Works.
Right.
Then the other ones who are on standby, they really can't work from home.
Right.
They're being paid, but they're on standby. That if we do need them, they have to come. They can't be out. They can't be unavailable for work, or they have to take They have to
Right.
take compensatory time.
I get it. All right, thank you.
Any other response to citizens input? All right, moving on. Work session discussion topics. Manager Silka.
Okay, if you can just give me 1 second to
Yep.
get this up. And I'm up. Okay. The first one is to continue our COVID-19 operational plan. As you know, we did implement that at the end of March, and we carried it through to this board meeting, thinking that we'd be resolved, but with the governor's stay-at-home order extended through the month, I'd just like to go through the board and make some recommendations on how to continue. As you know, right now, all township buildings have been closed and remain closed through, through this meeting, and I'd like to, propose that with the stay-at-home order issued through the end of April, that we maintain the closed public access through April 30th. We currently have no public meetings in the building other than the Board of Commissioners. As of right now, I am recommending that we continue that. We are, one of the reasons we cut staff inside the building on the platoon system is that there's no way to maintain the CDC guides for social distancing, as we're kind of pretty well packed up, especially in the planning department. And I'd like to also continue the platoon system, which isn't the most optimal way to do business, but it is allowing us to protect half of our workforce at a time by splitting it up. We operate on the 3 working days on site and 3 working days off site. Those of us who can do actual work from home, directors are expected to be working, and we do phone call and email throughout the day. The good part is if going off site with our servers on our email online, our financial package, we were able to do all of our finances with the 2 clerks working, 1 at home, 1 in the office. We made our 2 payrolls flawlessly. We paid our bills. With the Tracer system, we're able to have a staff interface on the planning, zoning, and complaints. So things that, the technology that we invested in the last couple of years actually fell right into our plate to allow us to operate the best we can. So I am, we're recommending that we continue the platoon system. And as I said, the hourly employees and are on standby. They do have a 30-minute report, so nobody can be, not available for work without taking vacation or personal time, no sick time. Operations from the dispatch center and the police department as essential departments, they're currently working as they would. And we do realize that this is a temporary position caused by the pandemic. This isn't something that we're, evaluating the effectiveness of. So, everybody who is working, whether on-site or off-site, we know that they're not working to the full optimal ability. We know that we can't provide the services the full optimal ability. So that, everybody does know that, and this is, as soon as we get back to normal operations within the state, we will get back to normal operations within our township. So I do, suggest we go through this. Also, as we kind of dovetail into that, we do have a revenue concern right now. As there is mass layoffs within the state's backed up. They can't process the layoff claims. People aren't going to be paying their taxes. We live on taxes. The good part is that as I compared first quarter 2019 to 2020, we're only $20,000 off through the end of April or end of March. And what that is there was an anomaly. There was 2 or 3 insurance checks that came in on miscellaneous income. So we're $18,000 less in miscellaneous income. So we tracked for the first quarter our taxes within a $500 offset. So that is the one positive. Now, where this is going to affect us is second and third quarter, especially with business gross receipts, and as we get through to the folks who haven't paid their real estate off in the discount period, and as we go through. So we're going to be very closely watching the budget and going through. In fact, we are going to come through probably at the May meeting. I would like to move that up. That we're going to probably recast the budget in anticipation of any revenue shortfall, so we're ahead of the curve, and that we're not waiting and then all of a sudden trying to backpedal. But what we've done in the core is in the immediate time is we've restricted all purchases to essential core services. Basically, we're keeping the lights on. We're keeping the lights on, keeping the streets open. All capital purchases that haven't been approved prior to, I think it was March 15th, I put the memo out. We are suspending all capital purchases. What we figured as we collect capital reserve revenue, next year we will recast it and spend that down. But we're not going to commit to any more capital purchases through this year. And then we're also going to be reevaluating all of our departmental budgets and cutting out any spending that isn't mission critical to core services. And probably the last one on this is that we deliver a wide range of services. with a small dedicated staff. I think if you take a look at the services we do with the level of staffing we have compared to some of our larger communities that we model after, the Cranberries, the Mount Lebanons, we do it well. And that's why I would not like to lay off right now at this point. We can weather the storm for at least another, through the end of the month, because with our labor contracts, we're going to look for, it's a 5-day notice. So at most we'd save 2 weeks, but then service would be severely interrupted with any layoffs. So, I appreciate the board that they accepted my recommendations to begin with the platoon system. And what I'd like to do is continue that through, May 1st and see how we are and see if we're back opened up. But I'd like, we can discuss, but I'd like to have action on this item. That way we can be consistent, keeping our policy in force.
Any more discussion?
I'll make a motion that we continue the state of emergency through April the 30th and continue with the platoon system through May the 1st.
I'll second that motion.
Discussion?
So I have a question. With the other meetings not being held, are we still issuing building permits and such?
No, we're not issuing any building permits. One, they can't build because building is shut down, is not essential, other than shoring up structures for weather protection or taking emergency measures. And the court system in Westmoreland County has shut down all court and administrative courts, so the planning commissions don't meet, zoning hearing boards don't meet. So everything is stayed. I mean, the court order put a freeze on it in time. So we're not issuing building permits because you can't do anything.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify for general knowledge.
No.
Thank you.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor by saying an aye.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, the next item I have is putting down a written purchasing procedure and policy. There really hasn't been one that was actually in written form, so I worked with our purchasing clerks to kind of come up with a procedure. And in front of you today is that, the procedure basically goes that anytime that a purchase is to be made from an outside vendor other than our ongoing, our utilities, insurances, and healthcare, a request for purchase order has to be put in from the department head to the purchasing clerk. The purchasing clerk then, with that, you'll include any of the quotes, specs, designs you put in. If it's something that we can shop around, the purchasing clerk will shop around to the various vendors to see the best price we get. If it's something that needs quotations, if it falls within the statutory requirements for 3 quotations, those quotations have to be attached. If it's a CoStar purchase, the CoStar contract has to be attached. And if it's a bid document, if it's the bid item, the entire bidding process, and outcome is attached. And also, the department director has to put a line item to the expenditure to make sure that there is sufficient authority. What the purchasing clerk will do is then we'll issue a PO number and give it to the manager for review. I will, double check, is there spending authority available within the department? If it's a CoStar contract, is it an existing valid contract? Because sometimes vendors do give numbers from old contracts, so we make sure that they are an active contract. If it's bidding, and make sure it falls within the statutory requirements. And then what I'll do is, if it is, then I will execute the purchase order, and then that becomes a legal purchase. A couple of changes, that I've added into this. One is that the township manager is the only person authorized to sign any document that encumbers a purchase, authorizes a purchase, or commits the township to a purchase after it's approved. And secondly, and this happens in a lot of municipalities, it isn't the case here, is that if the purchase involves 3 quotations, if it falls within the state statutory for 3 quotations, or if it involves a bid document, a bid process, or a CoStar's number, I want to bring it to the board for their final approval. Since it's a large expenditure, in the past, if it's a CoStar's number, the process is just to go through it. Bids the bids always come to the board, but I want to make sure that it's 3 quotes or a CoStar company number that I'm gonna bring it to the board at a monthly meeting for approval with the bills. I think it's just good practice, just like we started bringing the bond releases through. And that way it forms a public record and kind of gives protection to all involved in the purchase. And then after that, the purchase policy basically just goes, you pay for it and we pay it through our regular billing process.
Any questions or discussion on that?
Well, so the only real difference between how it was done before and this draft of the policy is the manager's authorization. And if there is a requirement for quotes or bids, it has to be brought to the board. That's basically the changes from the way we did it before.
Correct. Yeah, everything is now, it's now memorialized as a policy.
Any other questions or discussion? All right, probably move forward, put it on the agenda for next
Okay.
week.
And the last item that I want to talk about is the fourth quarter review from last year. Just kind of taking a look, as you know, I do the quarterly reviews. In 2019, the general fund budget was $14,920,445. We collected 87.2% of that revenue that we budgeted for. And we spent 94% of our budget. However, there's an anomaly in that budget that we budgeted $650,000 for the PIB loan from the state for the Haywood landslide. And after we realized that they weren't going to give us the 0% loan, the board authorized spending out of surplus the $650,000 to do that to do that. So we basically came up with, we have 91% collection rate whenever we take the anomaly of the $650,000 out that we didn't collect. And if you kind of take a look at the graph, every year we seem to raise about $400,000 in spending, which really accounts for increased road spending. Every year we find that we're able to do more roads, and also now we've also been adding drainage, stormwater, and landslides to our expenditures. We have no choice but to make, and these are the big one of Haywood. We also do, the smaller landslides. So we're trending in the same way as, we're still trending in a deficit spending by design, spending down the surplus. Last year we spent $953,792 out of surplus to balance the spending. Now, of that, $620 was the authorized Haywood, which is a non-reoccurring expense. And then we had $333,792 that went to operations. However, and out of that, $100,000 of that $300,000 was transferred to capital, as has been the design and approved in the budget. So we're kind of, we're as I said at the beginning of the budget year 2020, we're coming to the end of that. We're just about where we don't have unencumbered, fund balance. That we're at our limit. We have we started with about $3.7 million in the bank. That puts us real close to not spending any money other than what has been budgeted, or without the board intervention. Just taking a look at our yearlies, the general administration, we had 79% of our budget that we spent, and a lot of that is the crossing guards, insurance, other things came in. So probably if you look, probably about 90% of the general administration was spent, but when you put the other smaller ones in, it came down to 79%. The police spent at 92%, planning and zoning 92%, public works 92%, parks 97%, which we haven't been overspending. We've been very good spending to the budget, but we know that the budget is very tight, and we kind of keep that in mind. Going forward, there's the same red flags account. Landslide repairs and analysis. We have 2 new landslides. Frog Road, we had a landslide, not in the same area that we've corrected, and we put in temporary 1 lane, and Paul's going to address that in a memo to you at the end of the week. Stormwater, and we also have one on Lighthouse Lane, which kind of puts our little road in between 2 private properties. We have slides on the upper side and lower slide, and we're kind of caught in the middle. We're going to have to do some type of mitigation for that. We have been doing the increased spending on road paving and surfaces, and then we've been, I think, really good not adding anything after the budget's been adopted that isn't an emergency expense. So through the fourth quarter and through 2019, we did well within our budget, but our budget was, taking out of savings to do it. So I'd give the same advice as we just need to watch, and we're going to do, fine tooth combs through the budgets as we go forward through 2020 and into 21. And that's a brief synopsis of the fourth quarter. And as I said, going in, what we had in the first quarter, we're trending well for the first quarter. It's the second and third quarters of this year where we really have to watch out for and see the impacts of this shutdown and how long the shutdown goes and how long it takes to ramp everything back up. But the one positive is that our business gross receipt tax is capped at $8,000. So whereas some, the more you make, the more you get, and you have a higher threshold. If you take a quarter out, you can still, hit, we still be able to hit that threshold and not lose too much in business gross receipts tax because we do have a constrictor plate on it that said $8,000 it shuts down. So like I said, I will be very vigilant in taking a look at the budget going forward. And in next month, we're going to sit down and talk about recasting the budget in anticipation of any revenue shortfalls.
Any questions on the fourth quarter review? All right. Is that your end of report?
Yes, that's
All right,
in my
yep.
report.
There's no plant engineering topics on tonight. Any old business? Any further board comments tonight?
I just want to acknowledge the passing of Mike Waters and personally, and I'm sure on behalf of the commissioners, the condolences to his family and it's such a loss to our township.
Thanks. Anything else?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for being accommodating to me during this time. Just trying to keep my son, my wife safe during these unsure times. I appreciate everyone that's reached out to me at some point in time to ask how we're doing. So I'm watching you guys on camera. You all look great here.
Thanks, Brian. Any other further board comments tonight? Just need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor by saying aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned at 7:22.